So here I am. It is day 6 of our trip to Rolwaling. Haven't been on for a couple of days. So we arrived in Beeding a couple of days ago. Took us about 2 or 3 hours to get here the next morning, crossing over the big landslide just the other side of Beeding, which unfortunately has wiped out a lot of their winter settlement, most of their winter settlement, and that which isn't wiped out is destroyed pretty much by the earthquake. So quite sad to see that, but Beeding itself is recovering really well, which is fantastic to see. The locals have been busy repairing their homes. Luckily not many of them were completely destroyed. Most of them were just really badly cracked, or parts of them had fallen apart, so they were able to dismantle them and just put them back together basically. So much cheaper than having to obviously cut the stone and everything else. So that's great. So last couple of days been working really. Obviously, as you can see, in an incredibly stunning part of the world. It really is absolutely beautiful up here. Amazing deep valley with snow-capped mountains on either side, and at the end it really is just something else up here. But for me it's work, so obviously enjoying the beautiful surroundings, but at the same time we've been to the community hall, which is a monastery for them because they're Buddhist up here. They've got a lot of damage to that. It was already needing repair, but there's more damage now, so they're in even more need of repair. And also to the school to see the damage there. And the exterior actually is quite good, which is great, but the interior, basically there's like 2 layers to the wall. There's the outside and the inside, and the inside is kind of peeling away a bit from the outside. A few bits are crumbled. So soon, in the next few months, they're going to be repairing that, which again they can just dismantle and put back together. So we were able to supply the funding for that, which not much was needed, a couple of $1,000. So that's great. They're going to be able to repair it. They've got all the timber there for building the kitchen and dining hall, which we helped secure the funding for, and they're currently reassessing their building design for the hostel to make sure that it's as earthquake proof as possible, and everything else. That's great as well. So just been settling into life in Beeding really. Obviously very different to the West, and getting used to sharing one communal room with 5 other people, 6 including me. So no privacy whatsoever, which is absolutely fine, but it does take some getting used to initially. But it's always great to spend time with the families here, because you get a real feel for the culture and how things work day to day for them, and the difficulties they go through with daily life to function in such a harsh environment. So it's been really great, really enjoyed it. So right now I'm up on the top of the hill above Beeding, which is a bit of a steep climb up, a bit of a shock to the system, having had a couple of days rest. And this is quite a special place up here. It used to be used by one of the great lamas, the great Buddhist teachers, which is very important for the local people here, and also a number of people in the West now, because Buddhism is spreading, and it could possibly be a source of income for the locals if we can help Westerners come and do retreat here, Buddhist retreat, meditation, those kinds of things. So come up here to check it out, to see how much damage has been done by the earthquake, and luckily not much. I mean, the place is in need of restoration anyway. So hopefully we can secure some funding to do that, and then turn it into an income generating project for the local people. So that's kind of the way it's been going last couple of days, figuring out how things are going up here, having a chat with the local leader and his assistants to find out exactly what's happening, what their plans are, which can be quite difficult with the Nepalese, Tibetan, Indian approach, isn't the same as Western, and it can be difficult to get clear ideas from them. Not ideas, clear, head's gone foggy with the altitude, like a clear structure of what they're doing. It's in their heads, but they don't always communicate it so well, so it can be quite hard to get the facts, basically, which obviously in the Western culture we love to have, the more the better. So yeah, just slowly but surely getting a head around what's happening up here, and what they need from us, and how we've been seeing the impact of what we've been doing, which is great. And tomorrow hopefully we're going to head up to the next settlement, which is Na, and that's at about 4,000 metres. So we'll just be spending a day or two up there. That's where most of our reconstruction money went, because that's where they live most of the year. They're nomadic, so they move between 3 settlements: Na, high up, Biding here, and then the winter settlement, which has been destroyed further down. And because the monsoon was coming up when we supplied the money, they restored Na first to keep people dry in the summer. And it's, like I said, it's also where they are for most of the year, so it made sense to do most of it there. So yeah, looking forward to going up there. It's a really beautiful place, and hopefully take lots of footage for you to see that too. So we'll speak to you soon. Bye. Made mostly from stone and mud, Sherpa homes are traditionally 2-storey buildings with living space in one large room upstairs and storage for wood or animals downstairs. Whole families, bridging multiple generations, commonly share one relatively small living space, serving as a kitchen, bedroom, and lounge room. The fire is the centrepiece of every home, providing warmth in these drafty houses, as well as being the only method for cooking. It's lit as soon as people wake in the morning, and relit as soon as people return at the end of the day, burning until the household sleeps at night. Limited space requires careful organisation of belongings, everything having its place. Not enough room for everyone to have a bed means some sleep on narrow benches used as seating during the day, or on thin foam mattresses on the floor. As a Buddhist community, each house has its own altar, reflecting the beliefs of those who live there, whilst enabling them to make offerings and pray to those who guide them. These homes are small and basic, but functional, despite not having running water in the majority of them and needing to use wood for burning for the stoves to cook, creating smoke in the air. They are a safe place for people to live in the Hi everyone. So we arrived in Na, the highest settlement of the people who were beading. About 4,200, well down there is 4,200 metres, which is where Na is actually. Right now I'm up on the top of a hill at a very sacred site for Buddhists, checking it out personal point of view, but also from the point of view of the retreat plans that I mentioned before, from income generating projects, just to see what feasibility there is up here for people to come up and do retreats and visit as part of pilgrimages, that kind of thing. So work and pleasure at the same time. Beautiful trek up here, really. I love the walk up to Na from Beeding. It's just so beautiful. You walk, it's up all the way, but it's not too strenuous, and you walk alongside the river, above the river the whole way. So you have the noise of the water kind of tumbling down into Beeding. And at this time of year you've got really beautiful greens and oranges and browns and reds from the heather and things as they're turning. And apparently I'm told it's even more beautiful in the spring and summer when all the greenery comes out and all of the various different coloured flowers. But so far I've only been here at this time of year. But I do plan to come back in this spring coming, in April, May time, before I come back to the UK. So really looking forward to seeing a different environment then. So Na is pretty empty right now because most of the villagers have moved down to Beeding for the winter. So there's only maybe 4 or 5 people, I think, up here at the moment, which is actually really nice. It's really nice and quiet, and the trekking season's almost over, so not many trekkers going through. So it's really, really nice and relaxing to come up here. Had a look around yesterday, and they have recovered really well up here, which is fantastic to see. There's still a few buildings with some damage, but most of them, those that were damaged, have been reduced to 1 floor, which our money helped to do, which is fantastic. They're pretty much sorted up here, which is great because it means that for the summers they're okay, and also for the autumn they're okay because Beeding is looking alright as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. It's really wonderful to see they bounce back so quickly. So it's just the winter settlement, as I mentioned before, which is a little bit concerning, but I mean people around here, you know, they always find a way. So we'll see what we can do. But you know, it's not too concerning. It's just that it'll be a whole lot more comfortable for them if they're able to create a new winter settlement, because they can't even build it where it was because it's just a landslide basically. So from here, if you continue trekking, you go up to, I think it's Tashi Labster they call it, which is a big glacial lake. Really, really beautiful. Haven't been up there yet, but I've been told by many, many people that it's really beautiful. And then from there you can go up and over a really high pass, and then you go down into Sulukhumbu on the other side, the Everest Valley. So we're actually pretty close to Everest here as the crow flies, but in terms of the mileage on foot, obviously you're going up and down, so it's a reasonable way, and the pass is fairly challenging, but I'm told it's a beautiful walk. So maybe one day, perhaps in the spring, I'll get to at least go up to the base camp. Not sure I fancy going over it, but we'll see what happens. So probably another day here, and then we'll head back down to Beeding tomorrow, and then I'll be going down to Kathmandu soon because I need to get back there for the 20th, and it's now the 14th, and it'll probably take me a couple of days to walk to the bus and then a day on the bus, so I need to leave 3 days to get down there. And then we'll hit the ground running again with the Kathmandu project, spending a bit more time with Hope and Challenge team and also the Cirque team to check out the hostel, which we supported, which is now fully finished, and see what their plans are for the future. So we will check in soon. Hi everyone, so today is my last day in Rolwaling. It's been a very busy but productive 10 days. Managed to get my head around what's been happening, what's happening now, spend time with people, have some great conversations, check places out for future projects, all kinds of stuff been happening. And obviously just, you know, get to spend time in the mountains, which is always an amazing thing to do. Although sometimes challenging with the cold and dust and lack of showers and, you know, that kind of thing, running water some days, but it's always worth it. It's always worth the perseverance and the challenge. So we're now back in Beeding, having come back down from Nar a couple of days ago, and been spending the last couple of days finishing up, looking around, having chats with people. Trying to just get the information that I need before I head back down to Kathmandu, as much as I can before I head back down to Kathmandu. It's never really possible to get everything because, just the environment and the cultural differences and all that kind of thing. But really, really pleased with how it's gone, how much information we've managed to gather. And in some ways, looking forward to getting back to Kathmandu, having a shower, washing my hair, that kind of thing. A bit warmer, but you know, it's always bittersweet. Of course I miss the mountains and being up here and the people and the place and the energy and everything else, but do miss creature comforts a little bit whilst I'm up here, despite loving it around this area and all the mountains everywhere. So yesterday we went for a walk along the landslide just down from Beeding in the winter settlements. It is a huge landslide, and I think I completely underestimated the amount of damage that it's done. I mean, it's completely wiped out. I think they said between 6 or 7 homes that were being used, not at the time, but were being used in the winter times, have been literally completely bulldozed. So there's not even stones left to use for the rebuilding, so it's going to be more costly than it has been for rebuilding a lot of the other areas where they could literally dismantle the houses, put it back together again. So it is a big challenge for them. Yeah, we literally walked across the landslide, and quite amazing to see the power that must have gone into that for the huge boulders, the height higher than me, wider than me, and like height circular, just completely tore through the houses. And one of them, there's a hole, like a bullet hole in the roof, where a rock went straight through the roof, and then it's kind of come out at the door at the back of the house. It kind of went straight through a diagonal trajectory, like imploded through the house, destroying everything as it went through. It's just crazy. I can't even begin to imagine the power and the noise as well that must have created. I mean, it must have been terrifying for people who are up here. Because actually, it's hard because of language, but from what I can work out, it happened after the first earthquakes and not during. I think the earthquake, or maybe it was the aftershock the day after the big earthquake, because the earthquake happened on 25th of April, and then the very next day there was the big aftershock. So I think maybe the 25th of April earthquake made everything unstable, and then the next day aftershock brought the whole lot down. And there was another landslide the other side of Beeding as well. So that didn't destroy any homes or anything. That unfortunately made a water project they're about to start up here to bring water to people's homes much more difficult. They think they found a way around it now, which is great, because just the other day the public taps ran out of water, because the streams they take it from high up run out in the winter, partly because of global warming. Everything's just drying up in the winter. The glaciers are much smaller, etc. And the river down here, which you would have seen and could possibly hear now, it's big, but it's glacial, which means that it's got a lot of sediment in it, which is obviously really unhealthy to drink. And plus the animals, toilet in it and that kind of thing. But because the water had run out of the taps the other day, they had no choice but to use it. So we boiled it to obviously try and make it okay to drink. And I had someone had diarrhea afterwards, and it wasn't bad, but just made you realise how much we can take clean water for granted. It's really, as soon as the taps came back on, we're practically stockpiling, using every container we could to fill it up with the cleaner water. So it is a big deal, and there are many challenges up here, as I keep mentioning. But this water project hopefully it's a better source of water, bigger source of water. And luckily it seems that the landslide didn't completely destroy that project. But the people of Beeding, either side, they had these big landslides, so they're really fortunate to not have any problems. So yeah, 1 day to go, and then heading off tomorrow. So heading down, going to take either 1 or 2 days to go down, and then hopefully getting a jeep down to Kathmandu. So probably won't take much footage on the way down, because I'll be using trekking poles because my knees get really wrecked going downhill. But I hope you've enjoyed seeing what we've been up to in Rolwaling, give an idea of what the charity does and what it's like for me as director to come up here and to work. Some people, I'm sure, understandably think of it as a holiday, but I think it's fair to say that, of course, it is partly, and don't get me wrong, it's I'm feeling incredibly grateful most days that I'm able to do this for a number of reasons, but it is pretty tough work. So we'll speak to you all soon.